The NHL Draft is complete. The Blue Jackets rebuild is over, and the Blue Jackets are now ready to hunt for a Stanley Cup.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Hayden Heilshorn. I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get going here, I want to thank you all for making this your first listen every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It is also free on YouTube, which some of you are watching here. Thank you very much. It's also free on the SiriusXM app. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For parts that fit, head to ebaymotors.com and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Fit only for U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Again, thank you so much to Pat Verbeek for taking Leo Carlsson number 2 overall. You have made my life so much better as a human. I don't even mean to exaggerate here as a Blue Jackets fan. Getting Adam Fantilli was just massive, and the Jackets are getting high praise from all corners in the NHL world just for the draft that they had these 2 days. It's been absolutely amazing. Again, it started Wednesday night when the Jackets got the best value pick they could get, taking Adam Fantilli at 3rd overall. Are you kidding me? The Ducks, I don't know what happened. Again, just thinking about the draft a little bit more in the first night. I don't know if Adam Fantilli, when he interviewed with the Ducks, was like, hey, I'm not really interested in playing in Anaheim, because Adam Fantilli was on the record saying he wants to play in Columbus. And that in itself is just so mind-blowing to people. I understand why. You pit the two cities together, Los Angeles and Columbus, and you're like, how could living in Cowtown, USA be living on the Golden Coast, baby? Like how can Columbus, Ohio trump the desire of an 18-year-old to how can that be living at Los Angeles? And the truth is maybe it doesn't, but when you consider just all the players I almost called them Ohio State. If you consider all the players that the Blue Jackets have, and they're very much not Ohio State, they're very much Michigan. If you consider the talent that's already there in Columbus outside of the Michigan guys, when you consider it's much more affordable, you can make more money as an NHL athlete living in Ohio than you can living in California based off the state income tax. It's a great situation for Adam Fantilli. It's a perfect fit for him. The guy has played in the Midwest pretty much his whole life, starting out in Canada, which I am considering part of the Midwest. I mean, here in Ohio, we're getting absolutely smoked by Canada smoke, so it feels like we're very close. It's all a great situation for Adam Fantilli in Columbus. So the Blue Jackets started out on the right foot on Wednesday night. They followed it up here on Thursday night with just another great performance at the draft. After taking a few hours today to just watch some Fantilli highlights, the dude is an absolute lightning rod. He's going to be a bright player on the ice too. And I mean, like, he's going to be really smart. He's going to make a lot of really smart plays. He's ready for the NHL today. He's only 18 years old. So just very, very exciting there. But day 2 was amazing as well. The Jackets get the best value pick in day 2 when they take Gavin Brindley 34th overall. It's a great value pick because Brindley is a teammate of Fantilli already. He's Fantilli's right winger. He wears number 4. You'll see him out there when you watch your Fantilli highlights. He's the guy usually dishing the pass or catching the pass from Fantilli that leads to a goal. I would have been very, very excited if the Jackets would have taken Leo Carlsson 3 overall. Let's say Fantilli goes to the Ducks, which I don't care how bad he may have interviewed in Anaheim. It is Anaheim's job to take the best player available, and they absolutely did not do that. As I've had time to sit down and think about it. And now I'm looking at myself now. I look like a complete buffoon with my trash stash going, and just the apartment's a mess right now. But it's been a straight party for 2 straight days. I work with a Blue Jackets fan at my full-time job, and he just didn't come into work today because he was partying so hard last night, and that was completely acceptable. But just to get back to the Gavin Brindley here, that was a complete check the YouTube to see how disgusting I look, or don't check the YouTube to see how disgusting I look. But Gavin Brindley, adding him after taking Adam Fantilli was awesome. If we lived in a normal world where I guess we do live in a normal world, but I don't know, we don't live in a normal world. If we lived in a world where Pat Verbeek was smart and would have taken Fantilli 2, and the Jackets would have gotten Leo Carlsson at 3, and would have came back around later and gotten Gavin Brindley, I would have been very, very happy with that. But then the Jackets ended up trading their late first-round pick for Ivan Provorov. I didn't think it was possible to get Gavin Brindley. And then the Jackets got Adam Fantilli and Gavin Brindley. So you're going to have their first 2 picks in this draft have tons of chemistry. That's not something that other teams can really say. And just to give you an idea of how much of a value pick the Blue Jackets getting Gavin Brindley at 34 actually is, Locked On Predators took Gavin Brindley 24th overall in the Locked On mock draft. So that should tell you all you really need to know about the value the Jackets got in that pick. It's a very good pick. He's an undersized right winger, but honestly, at this point, I don't really believe in size. I don't really believe in size being a huge contributor into how a player can play in the NHL, especially the forward position. We've seen a lot of great undersized forwards in the NHL, so him being 5'8" wouldn't even bother me. I think that's what he is. I'm just ripping that off the top of my head. He's short. I know that. He might not be 5'8", but he's very, very good either way. If you watch the highlights of Adam Fantilli, you will also be watching Gavin Brindley highlights. Again, he's wearing number 4 in those tapes of Fantilli. Fantilli wearing number 19 in a Michigan uniform. These 2 guys are they're electric together. There's some major chemistry going on there. And I can't help but think if those 2 guys are gelling, how much are they going to gel when they get to the major leagues and they start playing with guys who have more NHL experience? I can only imagine. I can only sit here and dream about that. But yeah, a very good first couple of rounds for the Jackets. The Jackets then got back to work in the 3rd round when they took William Whitelaw from the USHL. There was a commenter on a YouTube video. Shout out this guy named Ben who commented on a Blue Jackets video that they posted on their YouTube about Whitelaw. He said, quote, "My favorite player from the Youngstown Phantoms, though he needs a couple more years, is a very good, strong 200-foot player." I'm talking about William Whitelaw here, and that was a quote from Ben on a YouTube video that the Blue Jackets posted. Favorite player from the Youngstown Phantoms. He needs a couple more years before he's fully there, but he's a good, strong 200-foot player. That's just an idea of what you're getting. And I took a second to look at some William Whitelaw highlights. I'll get to those here in a moment. First things first, though, I want to talk to you guys about Athletic Greens. So I was getting tired of taking so many supplements every single day. I take pills, I take gummies. I was doing that. And then I was just like, I want a single solution. I want everything in one, everything that kind of just puts my body in the right spot every day, something that covers all my nutritional bases. So I went with Athletic Greens. I wanted to get better gut health. I wanted a boost in energy. I wanted a boost in my immune system support. And I hated taking pills and vitamins, like I just said, and even gummies. I felt like an absolute child reaching in and getting vitamin D out of my little gummy jar every single day. If you want a drink that tastes great, that's going to give you all the supplements you need, drink AG1. Athletic Greens, they're phenomenal. But AG1 in the morning before working out or before I'm going to work, it gets my day going. It makes me feel unstoppable. I'm ready to take on my day. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do something good for my body. I like giving my body the nutrition it craves. I like covering all my nutritional bases. That is why I like to drink AG1. It's the stuff. It's the stuff, guys. I'm telling you. All right, the Jackets in the third round took William Whitelaw from the Youngstown Phantoms. It's a huge get for the Jackets in that spot. Obviously, for any hockey fan who lives in Eastern Ohio, they have to love this pick here. I just threw out there that William Whitelaw played for the Youngstown Phantoms. He's actually a Youngstown Phantom legend already, considering the fact that the Phantoms have been around since 2003, and they just won their first ever Clark Cup, which is of the USHL. That's like the Stanley Cup, and he just won it with them. Actually, there's this clip you need to watch out there on YouTube from Flow Hockey. If you get a chance, Whitelaw scores the game-winning overtime goal that sends the Phantoms to the Clark Cup final. And after a nice little, Jack Hughes stick toss into the crowd, little spoiler alert there after he scores the goal, it's an electric celebration. The announcer, whoever's calling the game for the Phantoms, he just absolutely puts the Chicago Steel in a grave with his call. It's pretty entertaining. Definitely a good watch. So yeah, just look up William Whitelaw and then find that Flow Hockey video. I can tell you right now from watching Whitelaw highlights a little bit, that man has an office and it is right outside of the goalie crease. He just loves to post up there and just bury tap-ins, which is a very good place to bury tap-ins from. As long as you have the right teammates that are going to give you the puck. It's a great pick for the Jackets. It's watching highlights of all these guys that they got, Fantilli, Brindley, and then I threw Whitelaw in there. I'm like, oh, this guy's doing something a little different already. He likes to stay right outside the crease and just hit these tap-ins all day. The Jackets then doubled down with the Phantoms when they took a left-handed defenseman, Andrew Strathmann. He is currently committed to North Dakota. Oh, back to Whitelaw for a second. Will Whitelaw currently committed to Wisconsin. So that should be pretty easy to remember for you Jackets fans out there. William Whitelaw is at Wisconsin this upcoming year. But then, yeah, like I said, the Jackets took his teammate, another Clark Cup champion out of Youngstown, who is going to North Dakota, this defenseman, Andrew Strathmann, putting up a few of his highlights. This guy's got a pretty good snapshot from anywhere in the zone. It looks like he really leans on his offensive ability, which is pretty exciting. Obviously, the Jackets have a lot of currently very talented offensive defensemen, but those guys are, 28, 29, 30. They need to start investing in the future. They got Andrew Strathmann from Youngstown going to play at North Dakota this upcoming year. Like I said, he's got a really hard snapshot. Looks like he likes to play offensive first, so a nice offensive defenseman that the Jackets got there. And then the Jackets went back to center when they took Luca Pinelli from the OHL. This was a good fourth-round grab, too, getting Luca Pinelli. He's a smart center with quick hands. He's 5'10", so he's not the big, strong center, but he clearly knows what he's doing, keeps his head up the whole time he's on the ice. He has really quick hands when the puck is on his stick, and he also has a huge commitment to defense. You can see just from watching the first few shifts that I've watched him playing with with Ottawa, excuse me. He prioritizes defense, knows where to be on the ice, and he's wearing the number 20, which is just an awesome hockey number. I instantly think of Dino Ciccarelli whenever I see a forward wearing the number 20 out there. Dino Ciccarelli, big favorite of my dad's back in the day when he was playing for the Stars and both the Red Wings. All right, I'm going to tell you about the last three draft picks here in a second. Again, very, very good first couple of rounds for the Jackets, just absolutely electric. I'm going to talk about the rest of the three picks here in a second. Before I do that, I would like to first thank the everydayers from everyone here at the Locked On Podcast Network. I think I speak for all the hosts when I say thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for commenting on all of our videos all the time. I started here with Locked On Blue Jackets just in May, and you guys have already made it so much fun. The Jackets have made it so much fun themselves with the work they've put in this offseason. I mean, shoot, we're 104 days away from opening night between the Jackets and Flyers, and I couldn't be more excited. New coach, new players. The Jackets and the Jackets fan base has found a new level of optimism for the team this year. And frankly, this last 20 years, the Jackets haven't had a ton of optimism. I mean, the Jackets have always had electric off seasons. I mean, shoot, this last off season was amazing, bringing Johnny Gaudreau in. But this one this year has been one of the more fun ones. So I just want to real quickly thank you once again to all the everydayers who tune into this podcast. We really, really appreciate it, Jay and I. You guys have made it a ton of fun to do this show. And just back to the last few kind of draft picks that the Jackets got. Again, just to run through the first four: Fantilli, Gavin Brindley, William Whitelaw, Andrew Strathmann, and then Luca Pinelli. The Jackets get 4 forwards and 1 defenseman there in that bunch, and then they follow up in the 5th round, pick 156 overall, taking Melvyn Strahl. He's a goaltender who didn't put up big numbers in the juniors this past year. He was 10-12 with a 3.3 goals against average, 88 save percentage with Moto's junior team. I to be completely honest, guys, I don't know squat about this guy, and once I saw his stats, I just instantly said in my head, those need to get better. So that's all I'll give you on the goaltender there. It is a position, though, that the Jackets desperately need to address. I don't think Elvis Merzlikins is the guy to get it done in the future. He was bouncing around. It looked like pins sometime during the draft this week. Maybe was making an appearance, and he had some good things to say to whoever was interviewing him. I didn't catch that either, but he was basically saying it's a new Elvis. He feels like a new guy. That's something I've heard before out of him. We know the Blue Jackets have Daniel Tarasov that they're also kind of hoping can become a starting goalie in the NHL. That would be phenomenal if Daniel Tarasov became fully comfortable carrying a load, because the Jackets are probably going to need him, because I don't think Elvis, as much as he says he's a new guy, I don't really believe him, because I've heard that before. But anyway, the Jackets take Melvyn Strahl out of the 5th round to kind of answer that question. So that's a player to look out for. Jackets didn't have a 6th round pick. They finished the draft in the 7th round, taking Oiva Keskinen, who is a center out of Finland. This guy is pretty good. He played 45 games with a junior team over there in Finland and had 42 points in 45 games. So I'm really, really excited about this guy. I haven't fully, dove into the tape on him, but it's going to be really exciting when I do, because the guy was a point a game in Finland this past year. So he's doing something there. And then the last pick of the NHL draft, not just the Jackets' last pick of this draft, the round 7 pick 224, the Jackets get Tyler Peddle, a left wing out of the QMJHL, Drummondville. Peddle was the last pick of this draft, and he said, quote, "I was in complete shock because my father just grabbed me. It's probably one of the scariest things leading up to it, but it was the best moment I've ever experienced in my life, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity." He's a skilled power forward is how he would identify himself. He said, quote, "I play a physical game and I can shoot the puck, and I think my scoring ability is one of the best things." So pretty cool that this guy got to the last pick of the NHL draft. He hadn't gotten picked yet. He's probably sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Like, I thought I was going to get drafted. I was telling all my buddies, like, they were all rooting for me. And then for that pick to be the pick that is him, and it's to the Columbus Blue Jackets, is absolutely awesome. So that's another guy to look out for. Great draft. I instantly, after the draft was over, I got a notification from The Score, who just did a quick grade of all the Blue Jackets draft. And on that app, they gave a pretty good breakdown of each pick. They gave the Blue Jackets an A+ in this draft, and they were giving out a lot of A's and B's, don't get me wrong, but for the Blue Jackets to be getting an A+ in this year's draft is extremely exciting. Like, I can't emphasize it enough how much this draft this year changed how I view this club. The Blue Jackets have done tons of work this offseason, bringing in a new coach, bringing in Provorov, bringing in Severson, and now they got Adam Fantilli, the center of their dreams. Connor Bedard was the center of their dreams. He was the center of everybody's dreams. But Adam Fantilli for Blue Jackets fans. It felt like before the draft, he was our guy. If we could just get him to slip from 2 to 3, he was going to be ours all day. And again, we heard the rumors going into the draft that the Ducks were considering taking Leo Carlsson. I don't know if that was around the same time where Adam Fantilli in May was talking about how much he wanted to play in Columbus. But if that was around the same time, then I imagine that when Fantilli maybe interviewed with the Ducks, that the Ducks felt like his heart was somewhere else. And that's where I go back to, since I've started this podcast, or I didn't start this podcast, Jay started this podcast, but since I started working on this podcast, I've never seen Columbus be a team that is a destination, but it is now. It is a destination, and it's hard because I've said it was a destination when I joined this podcast, but I've still had a hard time even believing it for myself. And now you got an 18-year-old Adam Fantilli, who would be the number 1 pick in the draft this time next year, is saying he wants to play in Columbus and is really looking forward to it. So as much as me, the Ohio State hockey fan, hates to see all these Michigan guys clutter up Columbus, they're really building a strong hockey team in the city. And my buddy Loudon actually pointed out that the Blue Jackets at this point are all Russians, Michigan guys, and Columbus natives. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. That is pretty much the team these days. And I don't have a single problem with it because Michigan players have turned out to be pretty damn good in the NHL. Now, Russians, I just love Russians. I always think they're good for a sound bite or two. And then I just also love the Columbus natives because I just have this belief that they're going to go the extra mile when the going gets tough and the tough get going, if you know what I mean. So it's all looking really good. And I said at the beginning of this episode, it feels like the rebuild is over. It does. It really does. I mean, the Jackets were 8th in the Metropolitan Division last year. The Metropolitan Division is the most brutal division in hockey. So it's hard for me to come in and expect that they're going to even make the playoffs, let alone make a run for the Stanley Cup. But with the talent that they have on paper, this team is so dynamic. This team is so talented. You just feel like they're either a coach or a goalie away from leading a charge to the Stanley Cup final. And I'm being dead serious when I say that. I really, truly believe that the Jackets are very, very close to making a run for the Stanley Cup. And it's easy to sit here on June 29th after the Jackets had an A-plus draft and say that. A lot of teams end up drafting and feeling really good. It's about, when the blades hit the ice, how do the players perform? We're 104 days away from when the Jackets take on the Flyers. That's kind of what I'm building to. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Right now, the Jackets have all the momentum going for them. I just hope that they can continue that and roll it right into that first October game against the Flyers, where it's gonna be what a great opening night. By the way, we haven't had a time to break down the Blue Jackets schedule, but Mike Babcock versus John Tortorella on the bench at Nationwide. Oh man, that just how does that not get you excited as a sports fan? It should definitely get you excited as a hockey fan. And if you're not excited as a hockey fan and you're having a hard time getting to my level of excitement right now, just do yourself a favor, throw on some Adam Fantilli highlights. Like, this dude is absolutely phenomenal. Every time I watch one of his goals, I see something different in the play that I didn't notice before. This guy just has an extra bounce in him. You could tell that he's head and shoulders better than all the players on the ice, and he's playing high level hockey in the NCAA and in the Big Ten Conference. And a lot of the Blue Jackets prospects that were just drafted tonight are going to be playing in the Big Ten or in the NCAA. William Whitelaw and Andrew Strathmann, both those guys are going to be playing hockey. Whitelaw playing at Wisconsin, and Strathmann is going to be playing at North Dakota. So we're going to have some very interesting characters coming into Columbus, either to play the Buckeyes in Whitelaw or for Fantilli coming to Columbus to play for Columbus, which I said in yesterday's episode. We don't really know where Fantilli is going to go, but that was stupid of me. The guy just won the Hobie Baker Award. Like, he's going to be playing for the Blue Jackets this upcoming season. He's pretty damn sure of that, and I think the Blue Jackets are as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken him. I think the Blue Jackets probably look at themselves as a Stanley Cup contender, as they should, guys. As they should, yes. Is it always healthy for fans to have realistic expectations for the team? Is a Stanley Cup a contender right now a realistic expectation? No, it's not. Even after all the work the Jackets have done, it is not realistic for the fan, for the average fan, to go and believe that this team can be a Stanley Cup contender. But I am fully okay with Jarmo Kekalainen viewing his team as a Stanley Cup contender, because that then influences him to make decisions to constantly make them better and take them to the next level. I need everybody in that locker room to believe that they're a Stanley Cup contender, because unless you believe you're a Stanley Cup contender, you're never going to be one. So I don't know what this season has in store for us, but I got a feeling it's going to be really, really exciting. I'm sitting here at the end of June, at the end of a great draft, saying that, but it really, really does feel like the rebuild is over, and it ended quickly. Granted, you could argue that the last 2 years were kind of the rebuild phase, which they definitely were. They definitely were, but all those nights where the Jackets sucked and lost 6-2 to the Montreal Canadiens and lost 7-1 the next night to the Carolina Hurricanes, and then lost a back-breaking 3-2 game the night after that to some Western Conference team. All those losses the last couple of years, all those times we had to sit and watch Brad Larson scratch his head not knowing what he's doing behind the bench, all that suffering we did the last 2 years is paying off, because we have an absolute stud in Adam Fantilli, and we have a stud teammate right winger, Gavin Brindley, and we have a bunch of studs after that. We have studs playing for the Monsters right now. It's a really, really great time to be a Columbus Blue Jacket fan. I got to be completely honest, guys. It's really, really exciting, and I can't wait to talk more about it next week. We're going to get into more. Jay's going to be back. To those who celebrate Pride Month, I just want to give a happy Pride Month to you before it ends. It's going to be July here, and we're going to be that much closer to October and to the preseason games and to opening night. So it's going to be a fun rest of the summer. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and the SiriusXM app. I'm Hayden Heilshorn. You can find me on Twitter at HaydenH971. You can find the show on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. You can also email the show, lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you guys once again so much for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.